Hi, and welcome to my very first episode of the Behind the Bib podcast. I'm Lisa Watkins. I am going to be your host for this podcast, and I am excited to be here. I've been thinking about starting a podcast for a long time, and I finally just took the plunge this year and said, all right, well, just hit record, right? It took me a minute to actually record this, and I had to speak to somebody I admire that had started their podcast in the kind of Midwest area. Kyle from Back in the Pack podcast. I just want to say a thank you to you for giving me the little push that I needed, because he's the one that actually told me, just hit record. Just hit record and talk about what you're passionate about, and just go with that. And so that's what I'm doing. I just hit record, and I'm going to talk about what I'm passionate about. And one of those things is running. And so this podcast is a little bit of an outlet for me. I'm hoping to be able to do a few things with this. First of all, I like signing up for races. It helps me personally when I know that I've got a race out there and I'm training for it. It just kind of helps keep me accountable and stay on my training plan, and helps keep me consistent. So I like to do that. Also, races are just fun. Running can be pretty hard, and while you're doing it, I don't know a lot of people that are like, yeah, let's run, like while we're doing it. Afterwards, it's awesome. It's wonderful. You get a really good kick out of it, a high. I love that I can stay out on the dance floor with my daughter like the whole time. So that's great. But I don't know of a lot of people that are like, yes, this is awesome while they're in the process of running it, which also brings me to the idea of so while I'm doing this is all from a non-elite perspective, right? So I'm not a front of the pack runner. Sometimes I'm a middle of the pack runner, but mostly I'm in the back of the pack. I actually call myself a mullet runner because the party's in the back and we just have a good time. We go out there. If there's a picture that needs to be taken, we'll be taking the picture. If there's a dog that needs to be petted, we'll be petting the dog. If you need to stop in the middle of the Cotton Row 10K on Mountain Wood Hill and talk to your friend that lives there, I'll be doing that as well. So that's what this podcast is about. I'm going to be signing up for races just like I always do, but with the added element of then I'm going to come on here and tell you about them. First, because it's hard when you're not an elite runner, or you're not super comfortable in the running world yet. It's hard to show up for races and just not know, like, what's the elevation like? Maybe it's your first 5K and you really just want a flat race and you want to try for that first, but you don't know how to access the elevation of a race. So my goal is to come on here and just tell you about them after I run them, and or run walk them, and I'll do a whole episode on my whole method of run walking. There's a whole system to it, which I love. But that's the whole idea, is that I'm going to come in here and talk about running because I'm a runner, and you can't just like date running. You have to like marry it and become a long-term relationship with it. And so that's what I'm doing. I talk to my husband a lot, who's very supportive. However, he gets very tired of it, and I understand that. He's as supportive as he can be. And then you talk to other runners about it, and that's awesome too. And so I kind of hope that that's what this is going to be, is as a little girl that was told before she went over to like a friend's house to spend the night or whatever, my mom would give me a warning. She's like, Lisa, don't talk too much. Nobody likes somebody who talks too much. Well, for everybody else out there that was told you talk too much, how's your podcast going? So with that said, I'm Lisa Watkins, and I started Behind the Bib podcast to tell you about races all around the Southeast, the races that I do, and from the non-elite perspective, right? From the perspective of somebody in the back. Hey, do you have aid out there still? Is the finish line still set up? Cool things like that. I also want to remove like the barrier of entry for some of the runners out there because, you know, if you haven't signed up for your first 5K, or maybe you're thinking about doing a half marathon for the first time, and it's hard to like make that decision to go do it. But if you're like me and you want to get as much information as you can to remove the fear around it, I hope to do that as well. And remove that barrier of entry and make it easier for people to get into the sport that has helped me personally so much. And I'm sorry, I don't know if this microphone is picking it up, but my dog is like playing with a squeaky toy right out there. And so that's a lesson learned for this episode. I probably will not let that happen next time. But that's why I started Behind the Bib. I hope to do things like have local race directors on, like if you've got a new race coming up that you want to talk about, and talk about the pace requirements, talk about the course, talk about something fun and cool that you have for that race. I want to have race directors on to talk about the race that they're planning. There's a lot of work that goes into these races, a ton of work, and I don't think people appreciate sometimes how much work goes into it. And really, people don't make money at this. It's a labor of love because they love the sport, right? And so I want to help promote that. That's one of the types of like interviews I'll be doing. And then I also want to have run clubs, like some of our local run clubs on. There's some really cool ones in our area that I've been going to for a while. They're super fun, super inclusive, do great activities. And it's just a good group of people to get involved in. So I want to have those folks on. And then also I'm going to try to have some runners on, just like people like you and me that are just going to run a race, and get their perspective on it, because it's always fun to talk to people and get their take on Whiskey Hill, right, and Oak Barrel, which I haven't had a chance to run Oak Barrel yet, but I'm hoping to. I didn't get in this year. It's one of those that sell out so fast, but I hope to maybe talk to a runner or two from Oak Barrel. So the idea is to go into some of these races, go do some of these races, and then just come back and tell you about them. I listened to my friend Kyle's podcast. He runs Back in the Pack, and I think they're in like Kansas City. They're in the Midwest, right? I'm never going to go. Like, I probably won't go. I don't want to say never because I've learned that lesson. I probably won't be doing many races in that area, right? But I love to listen to him because he just talks to race directors, and he gives you a good recap of the races, and you talk about, the murderous hills or the long flats, it's just great. It's great listening. So I'm hoping that this podcast will do that. And maybe you're out there on your long run and you've already listened to your book and you're tired of your book, or you've listened to your Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. You've listened to that playlist and you're tired of that, and you just want 30 minutes to take up time, right? That's what I want to do, is provide that. I also want to say thank you for those podcasts that were willing to meet with me and like tell me how they got started and stuff like that. This is not one of my strong suits, like talking. Anybody that knows me knows that every so often I will reach for a word out there that I just, it remains out of my grasp. And I'm just going to be honest with you. English is my first language, but sometimes I don't have a real strong hold on it. And you'll just have to forgive me. Okay. So with that, the race that I have coming up, and I signed up for this one on like a last minute idea, and I'll come back and tell you whether or not that was a good idea or not. I signed up for the Louisiana Half Marathon. It's coming up this weekend. Actually, in fact, I normally would be like recording and, race gear or whatever, run gear. But I came in straight after work and started recording today because I leave tomorrow to go run this race. And I was like, okay, I need to get episode 1 in before I go do the Louisiana Half Marathon. So that's the race that I've got coming up, is the Louisiana Half Marathon. I'm super excited about it. I'm a little nervous because I haven't really been running very consistently since the Every Woman's Marathon in November. Don't worry, I'm going to do a whole episode on the Every Woman's Marathon because, oh my gosh, I might do 2 episodes. I don't know. I fell in love at that race. So, but anyway, circling back to like what I'm talking about now, I'm doing the half of the Louisiana Marathon this weekend, and it was a last minute decision. I'm a little nervous about it because, like I said, I haven't been running as consistently as I was when I was training for that marathon, right? But I'm like, it's a half, and it has a pretty generous time requirement because the half and the full start at the same time, right? And you just have to make a cutoff. I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably okay, right? I could probably like do a good amount of walking. It'll be fine. I'm not setting out to PR this race in any way, shape, or form. I'm setting out to finish this race. And I'll let you on a little secret. I don't try to PR anything, really. Not really, ever. My goal is to finish every single race. And so that's just like between you and me, right? So my goal is not to PR this race. My goal is to go out there and have fun. It starts in Baton Rouge. I think it starts near the state capitol, which I found out is the tallest state capitol building in the world, not in the world, excuse me, in the United States. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I've got the added benefit that my daughter and my soon-to-be son-in-law live in Baton Rouge, and so I'm going to get to see them as well. And so that had a little bit to do with it. Is she texted me and told me that where she works is partnering with a marathon. If I wanted to come down, and of course I was like, of course, right? How could I pass that up? So this weekend is the Louisiana Marathon, and this is officially like episode 1 of Behind the Bib podcast. And my next episode, I'm going to review the Louisiana half and tell you what I think about it and tell you the cool things about it and maybe tell you some cool things about the city or how to get there, if they do a good job with packet pickup, or if their expo is awesome, or if their expo is awful, or if, the things that you need to watch out for. And that's kind of what I hope to do for all of the races this year. So with that, I think I'm going to call it. This is probably going to be a short episode. I'm not really sure how long it's been going, but I did just want to do one just to kick us off and say, hey, I'm out here. I'm going to be talking about running and racing and run walking and all the things throughout the Southeast. And I'm Lisa Watkins, and this is Behind the Bib. All right. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you later.